Well, I hope YouTube doesn't screw me over again. Let me tell you a story. The year is 2012. I've turned 6 years old and recently moved house. My older sister and I discovered this new show called Avatar: The Last Airbender. We fell in love instantly and watched every episode religiously. But there was one in particular which left me with a deep feeling of dissatisfaction at the end. Well, two, but I'm going to do another video on that one. Stay tight. The Southern Raiders has a hefty weight on its back, having to resolve three things: Katara and Sokka's mother, Katara's character arc, and her relationship with Zuko, and it does all of these things masterfully. It's established in the first 10 minutes of the show that Katara's mom has died, and she's obviously very distraught about that. She's a girl of passion. Her anger can sometimes get the better of her, but she also uses that passion to empathize with others who have gone through loss like her, despite what her haters might say. And there was one person in particular that she offered her condolences to, and he spat it right back in her face. Zuko, introduced as an antagonist who spent much of the time attempting to kidnap Aang and regain his honor, has come around to realize that that was not his destiny at all, and so gets the best redemption arc in fiction ever. But one person is not so happy about this: Katara. Katara was the first one to ever trust him, so who's to say that he won't turn heel again? But it's more than that. The setup is quite simple. The last 3 episodes had Zuko go on life-changing field trips with the members of the gang. This was a quick way to ease Zuko into being part of the team, as well as part of the main cast, but also to ease him into the audience. It's been Aang and Sokka's turn, so now it's Katara's time. Zuko offers her a chance she can't refuse. She can kill the man who murdered her mother. Aang, the proselytizing coward that he is, claims that she can't do it because of some vague nonsense about revenge hurting the one avenging. Aang shut the fuck up challenge. But Sokka, seeing a dangerous light behind his sister's eyes, tells her that maybe this isn't what's best for her. And similarly to Aang, after Appa was stolen, she lashes out and says the most heart-splitting words.
Then you didn't love her the way I did.
Maybe the words are crushing, but it is true that Katara's took her mom's death much harder than Sokka did. Katara, a child, had to become her mother's replacement. To a certain extent, Sokka too had to replace his father as man of the tribe once he left for war, and throughout the series he's focused on living up to the standard his dad set. But Sokka had Katara to support him every step of the way. Katara had no one. Sokka was able to overcome the worst day of his life, so much so that he forgot his own mother's face. Katara, who is implied to have seen her mother's corpse, could never forget that image. According to Alfred Hitchcock, the best way to build up suspense is to give the audience information that the characters don't know. The audience participates in the scene itself, wishing that they could. The Southern Raiders gives us 3 flashbacks to the same day, the first being Sokka's. His flashback starts on a normal day, a happy memory. It quickly turns sour as the black snow fills the scene. He focuses on the bravery of the warriors who pushed back the ruthless Southern Raiders. It's a triumphant memory. However, right under his nose, his mother disappeared. He can never see her face again. This also sets up a mystery. We need to fill in the holes of what happened that day. Katara's flashback immediately begins as the black snow plummets. There's no happiness in this memory. We get a good show of their village, and while it is not as grand as before the war, it is still in a far better state than what we saw in episode 1. The environmental storytelling shows us the last hint of beauty lay in Kaya, and without her, the world itself depreciated. The audience's hearts aches as we know the futility of a little girl attempting to save her mother, who is already dead, the horror that awaits her, Kaya's lifeless, uncharred body. It helps us to empathize with her, as we can feel the depression of not being able to do anything. This leaves us with one answer: why? The last flashback is Yon Raz, the former commanding officer of the Southern Raiders. It starts with him intimidating an innocent water tribe woman. Why did we kill her? We get the answer. She wanted to save her daughter. Katara was the reason she lost her mom. So Katara finds Yon Ra, the monster that killed her mother, and the most impressive display of waterbending yet, she gathers spikes of ice and spares his life. And she walks away, leaving him traumatized and trembling in fear. I said Katara had a dangerous hunger, her passion and rage directed at the monster who took her mother away. She refuses to sleep and even abandons her ideals, and bloodbends in her one-track mindset. But when she sees him, she sees that there was no monster, and she wasn't prepared for that. There was no personal vendetta against her, there was no thought behind it, he was just following orders. He's a sad, pathetic creep who was discarded by the Fire Nation to live a miserable, hollow life after he outlived his usefulness. Her worldview breaks at the banality of this evil, at all the Fire Nation's evil. And the Fire Nation was a cruel, singular entity in Katara's mind, one that she associated with Zuko because of all the cruel things he did to her and the rest of Team Avatar. The first time she gives him a chance, he's dressed up in Earth Nation clothes. She's able to separate him from that entity and empathize with him as a human that went through the same things she did. But he betrayed them, and then he comes back claiming to be a better person. The anger that she held at the Fire Nation for what they did to her mother mixes with her anger at Zuko for what he did after she bared her heart. And when her anger at the monster that never existed leaves, she's able to put aside her anger at Zuko and forgive him. The episode first presents us with Avatar's usual black and white conflict, forgiveness or revenge. If Katara doesn't kill Yon Ra, she should let go of her hate and forgive him, right? That's what Aang, with his myopic attitude, thinks. And no, she doesn't kill him, but she will never forgive him, giving Aang a metaphoric middle finger. In the end, Katara doesn't know what she should have done. Without the monster that haunted her nightmares, becoming a murderer just poses too many questions for her. The Southern Raiders is still deeply unsatisfying due to all the build-up toward that man's death, just dissipating, but that doesn't make it bad. Life doesn't always have a satisfying conclusion, and while that's hard to understand as a kid, you certainly get it as a teenager or adult. Therefore, I'd say the Southern Raiders gets better and better on rewatch. So yeah, that's it. Bye.